thy sword of revenge. Let it strike at thy bidding. Mine is the head of the man, and my inside is keen as the hawk's. By my bed I invoke thee. I am the only begotten child of my father and mother. My father is dead. My mother bore me with labor and pain and fear. By my body I invoke thee. About me shine winds of radiance, white and pure. By their brightness I invoke thee. Mine is the red triangle, reverse the sign, given of none, save it thee, O Lord. By the Lord I invoke thee. Mine is the garment of white, sown with gold, the flashing of day that I wear. By my robe I invoke thee. Mine is the sign of a prophet and Typhoon. Mine a sign I invoke thee. Mine is the turban of white and gold, and mine the blue vigor of the entire. By my crown I invoke thee. My fingers travel on the beat of pearl, so run I after thee in thy car of glory. By my fingers I invoke thee. Mine the wand of double power in the voice of the Master. Abraham Yahweh, by the word I invoke thee. I know the dark waves of music and the song that I sing of old to invoke thee. Strike the master chord, draw the flaming sword, silent conquering Lord, Horus Avenger. My hand is thy sword of revenge. Strike at thy feet. By the sword I invoke thee. I am the voice of the 611 are the voices. Abrahadabra.
We're doing that.
Mine is the head of the man, and my insight is keen as the hawk's. By my head I invoke thee. I am the only begotten begotten child of my father and mother. My father is dead. My mother bore me with labor and pain and fear. By my body I invoke thee. Upon me shine the diamonds of radiance, white and pure. By their brightness I invoke thee. Mine is the red triangle reverse, the sign given of none. Save it be of thee, O Lord. By the Lamb and I invoke thee. Free mine is the garment of white, sewn with gold. The flashing of eye that I wear by my robe, I invoke thee. Mine is the sign of a prophets and typhon. By the sign I invoke thee. For mine is the turban of white and gold, and mine the blue vigor of the intimate hair. By my crown I invoke thee. My fingers travel on the beats of pearl, so run I after thee in thy car of glory. By my fingers I invoke thee. I hear the wand of double power in the voice of the master. Abrahadabra, by the word I invoke thee. Mine are the dark blue waves of music in the song that I made.
What is Scott Bassett's net worth and how did he generate his income? What is Elon Musk and how did he generate it? Did Scott Bassett attack Elon Musk and what will it fire that? Did Elon Musk on Fox News during Doge and said this is the biggest revolution since the finance? Believe you or me, how much did Doge save U.S. taxpayers? Top 10 leftist work projects and programs cut? Mine is the adaptive man and my insight is keen as the heart. By my head I invoke thee. I am the only begotten child of my father and mother. My father is dead. My mother bore me with labor and pain and fear. By my body I invoke. Upon me shine the diamonds of radiance, white and pure. By their brightness I invoke thee. Mine is the red triangle reverse, the sign given of none. Save it be, oh be, oh Lord. By the Lamb and I invoke thee.
sing a fight that I wear. By my robe I invoke thee. Mine is the sign of a prophet and typhon. By the side I invoke thee. Mine is the garment of white and gold. And mine the blue figure at the end of the day. By my crown I invoke thee. My fingers travel on the beats of pearl, so run I after thee in thy car of glory. By my fingers I invoke thee. Father, the one that trouble power in the voice of the master. Abraham of Lord. By the word I invoke thee. Hey, mine heart is on blue waves of music in the sun that I made about to invoke thee. Strike the monster core, draw the flaming sword, crown, kill and conquering Lord, our Lord, against God, by the sword I invoke thee. In my hand is that sword of revenge, let it strike, I die beneath, by the sword I invoke thee. The voice of the fight, the voice of the 11 are the voices. Abra. Mine is the head of the man, and my insight is keen as the ox. By my head I invoke thee. I am the only begotten child of my father and mother. My father is dead. My mother bore me with labor and pain and fear by my body. I invoke thee about me. Shine the diamonds of radiance, white and pure by their brightness. I invoke thee. Mine is the red triangle reverse with the sign, given of none, save it be of thee. Oh Lord, by the layman. I invoke thee. Mine is the garment of white, so mine is the head of the man, and my insight is keen as the ox. By my head, I invoke thee. I am the only begotten child of my father and mother. My father is dead. My mother bore me with labor and pain and fear by my body. I invoke thee. About me shine the diamonds of radiance, white and pure. By their brightness, I. Mine is the head of the invocation concludes. Therefore I say unto thee, come thou forth and dwell in me, so that every spirit, whether of the firmament, or of the ether, or of the earth, or under the earth, or dry land, or in the ether, of whirling air, or of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God, the vast one might be mine is the head of the hawk, Abraham. I bear the rose and cross of life and
Circumcision, Jew, the request. Circumcision to be the request. This the electronic to the top 100 places that
I bear the rose and cross of life and light, giving the sign at each abracadabra. Remaining in the sign, the invocation concludes. Therefore I say unto thee, come thou forth and dwell in me, so that every spirit, whether of the firmament, or of the ether, or of the earth, or under the earth, on dry land, or in the water, of whirling air, or of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God, the vast one might be mine is the head of the hawk, abracadabra, and ends in 6. I bear the rose and cross of life and light. Hearing the sign, teaching abracadabra. Remaining in the sign, the invocation concludes. Therefore I say unto thee, come thou forth and dwell in me, so that came like dawn in my hands, soft but stronger than I knew. My fear turned gold in your eyes, and my whole night broke in two. I was lost in the noise, now I'm learning how to stay close to your quiet light in the middle of the day. Stop thinking, let it fall. Take the deepest breath of them all. Hold it close. Don't run from the feeling. One more second. You can start believing. Wisdom of God. Your touch is a steady rain on the dust of who I am. Every wound gets named and it fades in the hush. I don't need 1,000 signs when your name is in my chest. One deep breath, one brave step, and the rest can be blessed. Stop thinking, let it fall. Take the deepest breath of them all. Hold it close. Don't run from the feeling. One more second. You can start believing. Wisdom of God. You came like dawn in my hands, soft but stronger than I knew. My fear turned gold in your eyes, and my old night broke in two. I was lost in the noise, now I'm learning how to stay close to your quiet light. In the middle of the day, stop thinking, let it fall. Take the deepest breath, hold them all. Hold it close, don't run from the feeling. One more second, you can't stop believing. Wisdom of God, now it's yours. Wisdom of God, now it's love. Wisdom of God, my heart is open. Wisdom of God, I rise above. Hold, let it go, go, go. You are the answer I needed to know. Your touch is a steady rain on the dust of who I was. Every wound gets named, then it fades in the hush. I don't need 1,000 signs when your name is in my chest. One deep breath, one brave step, and the rest can be blessed. Stop thinking, let it fall. Take the deepest breath of them all. Hold it close, don't run from the feeling. One more second, you can't stop believing. Wisdom of God, now it's yours. Wisdom of God, now it's love. Wisdom of God, my heart is open. Wisdom of God, rise above. Let it go, go, go. You are the answer I needed to know. If I tremble, stay near. If I break, pull me through. Teach my hands to release what I cannot hold with you. Tend my night, tend my left. I breathe in your holy cover. And the storm in my head lays down like a pond. Wisdom of God, now it's joy. Wisdom of God, now it's love. Wisdom of God, my heart is open. Wisdom of God, rise above. Let it go, go, go. You are the answer I needed to know. Wisdom of God, now it's home. Wisdom of God, I'm yours alone. Wisdom of God is now joy of heart, enlightenment. You found me in the quiet, with my hands still shaking. I was carrying the hurt like a name I couldn't drop. Then you touched my trouble, and the whole room stopped. Stop thinking, 'cause ain't your problems. Take the deepest breath of the day. All for 10, not 11. 10, not 9. Stay. now. Joy, love, heart, enlightenment. You found me in the quiet, with my hands still shaking. I was carrying the hurt, like a name I couldn't drop. Then you touched my trouble, and my whole room stopped. Stop thinking, and your problems take the deepest breath of the day. Hold for 10, not 11, 10, not 9, stay.
Those teeth. The teeth he was wearing made things very difficult for him. We have found no sign of the intruder, but there is an open chute of sugar left. He used a favorite. It's his fault. He delivers now. He never fails to deliver. You may suffer a little bit, but he's not going to get anywhere. He's trying to accomplish. This week in the city of Chicago is an opportunity for us to celebrate the contributions of our city workers. These are the workers who ensure the success of our city. And through our annual Worker Appreciation Week, we do want to lift up again, all of the hardworking women and men of the city that contribute to the soul of Chicago. This designation provides us the opportunity to give just a little in return to the tens of thousands of city workers who show up each and every single day to keep our streets clean, teach our children, ensure that we get to work, and of course, keep our community safe. Throughout the week, I will be joining city officials and the community to honor and celebrate the determination, dedication, and grit of all of our public servants. Yesterday, I was proud to join Superintendent Snelling and the Chicago Police Department for their annual officer recognition ceremony. We did this and honored our officers who have given their lives in the line of duty and those who went above and beyond in their distinguished service to Chicagoans. I do want to pause for a moment here to continue to not only show our support, but as we mourn the life of Officer John Bartholomew, who made the ultimate sacrifice while ensuring that we renew our prayers for his partner, Officer Nelson Crespo, as he continues to recover. We continue to keep their families, their fellow officers, and the entire Chicago Police Department in our thoughts as they navigate this immense tragedy. To all of the brave women and men who serve as first responders and bravely put their lives on the line for Chicagoans ahead of their own, our firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, and our police officers, we will forever owe a debt of gratitude. It is this dedication to serving our residents that makes our city the world-class center for business, innovation, as well as culture, the city that we all know and love. It is only reinforced by the work of school crossing guards, bus operators, our sanitation workers, our librarians, sewer engineers, and countless more who keep Chicagoans healthy, enriched, and on the move. As mayor, I will continue to do everything in my power to support the city workers and ensure that they have the tools that they need to do what they do best. As we celebrate International Workers' Day last Friday, we also recognize the immense role that every single worker in Chicago plays in keeping our city strong. As nurses, delivery drivers, technicians, restaurant servers, warehouse workers, caregivers, retail workers, most of our reporters, no, I'm teasing, all of our reporters, you work to build the type of neighborhoods that empower our people and drive the future of our city forward. I will always be an ally to workers of all stripes, and my administration remains committed to ensuring that every worker in our city receives the support and opportunity, and most of all, the respect that they all deserve. With that in mind, I'd like to shift gears just a little bit. As you all know and are surely aware of this, later this afternoon, I will be heading down to Springfield to meet with our legislators and advocate on behalf of Chicagoans. I will be joining fellow mayors to advocate for the full restoration of the local government distributed fund within the final budget for the upcoming year. The LGDF is funded through state income taxes and is one of the primary mechanisms through which the state provides funding for local governments to deliver the integral services our residents rely on. This year, the proposed budget includes a cut which amounts to $60 million. This shortfall for local governments across the state, including $12.7 million for the city of Chicago alone, would be impactful. For more than 40 years, the annual LGDF share provided to local governments was set at 10%. Over the last two decades, it has slowly been chipped away at, this year being proposed at just 6.27%. Raising the percentage share by just 1% would result in an $80 million increase in funding for the city of Chicago. Every Chicagoan pays into this funding pool through their income taxes. Our residents who work hard every single day keep our city the economic engine of the entire state of Illinois. All of us deserve to receive the full return on their contributions. At a time in which the cost for local governments has risen along with inflation, the proposed cuts hamper our ability to maintain the full provision of public services that our cities need to function at their very best.
In addition to reversing the cuts to LGDF, we will continue to work with our legislative partners to pursue the progressive revenue that we need to break the cycle of budgets, which have again and again been balanced on the backs of working people. We are certainly encouraged by the state's inclusion of a measure which mirrors the social media and amusement responsibility tax that we pioneered right here in Chicago. As we all recognize the need for big tech corporations and social media giants to pay their fair share, I will be renewing my call for this General Assembly to grant Chicago the authority to levy a digital tax and include a statewide digital ad tax in this year's budget. Targeted advertising has enabled these companies to reap billions in profits, so it's only fair that they pitch in to support the well-being of Chicagoans and every Illinoisan. As we prepare for the coming budget cycle, we will advocate for the expansion of Chicago's home rule authority to raise progressive revenue without burdening working families in our city. I'm confident that by coming together around our shared values and vision for a more equitable future for our state and city, that we will be able to achieve many of these aims. I look forward to meaningful conversations with my fellow local leaders, with our legislators, and with the governor's office as we work to collaboratively find common ground, advance solutions, and deliver real results for the people of Chicago and all of Illinois. Thank you all for your patience today, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions at this time.
We have time for 2 questions, 1 follow-up each, and we're going to go down the line and wrap around, please. So.
Wait, how many? 2 questions, which doesn't, not in addition to a follow-up. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just want to make sure I have to talk to my union rep about all these questions y'all asking me. All right.
Mayor, good morning. Thank you. When you head to Springfield, I realized that you just spoke about a couple of other ideas, the digital ad tax and others, but 12 million is not, I mean, it's certainly you want every million, you don't want to lose any, but it's not a huge amount. I mean, the state, I guess their argument is, hey, we've had to tighten our belt too. So it's going to trickle down to all of you. What other perhaps ideas are out there to raise revenues?
Yeah, well, first of all, let me just name the fact that the local government distributive fund, I mean, this is something that has been intact for decades. When I made my first address to the General Assembly back in 2023, I highlighted this as an important part of how local municipalities show up for working people. And particularly at a time as the federal government continues to undermine our local bodies of government, it's the mayors who are dealt with the heavy responsibility of responding to the needs of people. And look, that's not chump change, right? When you're talking about 1% increase would be $80 million that could go towards driving safe and more affordable communities. So it is important, and I've been working to organize local mayors for the last couple of years. In fact, in DC, we convened a meeting with many of the local mayors who represent communities that are rural, suburban, and of course, obviously, me representing the largest city. So it has bipartisan support. This is a big deal, and we cannot afford, if we're asking anyone to tighten the belt, we should look at whose belt is exploding, and that's the ultra-rich. As their bellies get fat and our people are starving, this is not the time to balance the budget off the backs of working people. As far as other ideas, look, our position is still the same. I've been advocating for a digital ad tax for some time. This is something that I know the Senate President has expressed interest in. And so there's movement, you all. I just believe that the urgency of this moment really requires us to move outside of rhetoric and actually put some action into place. The last thing I'll say is I'm encouraged by the fact that the idea that we pioneered in Chicago, the social media amusement responsibility tax, that's something the state is looking to do. So clearly there's some shared ideas that they're, gaining from the work that we're doing in Chicago. We're hopeful that that can be reciprocated. The levies in which the state has control over, the jurisdiction over, they need to pull those levies now because it's a matter of life and death for a lot of our families, not just in Chicago, but throughout Illinois.
Is what to do about Soldier Field also on your agenda?
Well, the best thing to do for Soldier Field is make sure the Bears are playing there. Look, I still firmly believe that the best place for the Bears to play is in the city of Chicago. They expressed interest. I remember that a couple of years ago. Right now, the type of tax I don't know how they're framing it, but the type of tax structure that they would set up for large corporations and billionaires without a clear pathway to provide certainty as well as equity for everyday working people. I believe that that's a mismatch there. And quite frankly, look, the infrastructure that they're even discussing in the suburbs, those infrastructure needs have been present on the lakefront for a very long time. It's the top tourist destination anywhere in the state of Illinois, right? So it's to the economic advantage for all of Illinois to support the economic engine of the state of Illinois. And then finally, there are some real concerns about and I know the governor expressed them as well. There's some real concerns that have been laid out around what's being proposed. And so for me, I'm going to, of course, continue to fight for Chicago, but it's not just the best place for the Bears to play, the lakefront. It's the most economically sound as well as economically stable idea for the Bears to remain in Chicago.
Feliz Bataglia de Puebla, or the Battle of Puebla, otherwise known as Cinco de Mayo, which is actually today. I'm surprised nobody mentioned it today. And in any case, this first bundled question would have applied to the presser that you had with some of the other mayors across the country if I had received the link for it after applying for it. But in any case, for all you sanctuary cities, especially those led by Black mayors, what is your response to Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal's robust demanding of reparations for immigrant communities, whether populated with illegal aliens or potential immigrants, while not talking up the same for descendants of U.S. chattel slaves?
Look, I can only speak for my position, and as you know, we are moving with our task force around what reparations for Black Chicagoans could look like. The harm that has been done against Black Chicago is quite severe. That history is pretty substantial, whether it's the dismantling of our public schools, the dismantling of public housing, the closure of mental health clinics, the lack of opportunities for jobs, right? I mean, there are a whole host of areas where Black Chicagoans have been harmed by neoliberal ideas and austere budgets that, quite frankly, that have been moved primarily by the most conservative presentation in our city, in our country. And so I think it behooves us to ensure that investing in affordable housing, investing in education, investing in good paying jobs, that these are ways in which we can repair that harm. As far as any other group that is seeking reparations, look, I'm never going to stand in the way of that, right? I mean, we know the history in this country, whether it's Japanese Americans, whether it's the Jewish community, that, of course, the harm that was done during the Holocaust. I mean, there are countless examples of groups receiving reparations. My focus right now is repairing the harm that was done against Black Chicagoans. So, to clarify, in your case, this would not end up as another case of foundational Black Americans having to yet again wait their turn behind other groups for repair. So, look, my priorities have been pretty clear. We have a reparations task force to repair the harm done against Black Chicagoans. And of a more international interest, how wary are you that a final enacted version of their reauthorized FISA no-knock warrant law could be weaponized against sanctuary city mayors and governors the way it was, the original version was against Black Lives Matter organizers and activists? Well, look, worry might be too strong of a word, Mark. Quite frankly, do I take all measures seriously as it relates to the type of threat and damage and harm that it can do to the most vulnerable? Of course, but I try my best not to live or to react out of fear. I'm in this position as mayor to speak up for the least of these, the most vulnerable amongst us. It's not a popularity contest for me. It's about delivering high quality services for the people who rely upon them the most. And I think when it comes to ensuring that our criminal justice system is responsive and as well as committed to an equitable distribution of justice, that is something that we all have to work towards.
So to clarify, you'll cross that line when you get here.
As I said, I think worrying is probably wary. To the extent in which it's going to prevent me from being able to continue to move to build safe and affordable communities, it hasn't.
Thank you, Craig.
If I can just clarify something that Marianne had asked earlier about the Bears. Do you plan to have conversations with lawmakers about the Bears and whether it's either the bill that is now before the Senate or trying to keep them in Chicago?
I continue to have conversations, with lawmakers that the Bears belong in Chicago and that their interest is in Chicago. Look, I would have preferred to have conversations about a millionaire's tax. To be perfectly frank with you, I'm disappointed that the bulk of the conversation about Springfield right now is about how do we provide benefits for corporations at a time in which affordability is the number one issue that people are concerned about. And I know this is something that the governor has raised about raising the minimum wage and ensuring that, we're creating a pathway to build more affordable homes throughout the state of Illinois. I'm grateful that within the budget that he's put forth the social media tax. I think it's important that the city of Chicago understands what's happening in this moment. And what you have is a situation where you have a bill that's being discussed right now that would provide relief around property for corporations. What's interesting about that is that that's not something that the Bears currently have to think about in Chicago because they don't pay property taxes. So I think, again, as I said to your colleague, there is a mismatch here in terms of what the people of Chicago and Illinois are most concerned about and how government is responding and reacting in this moment. Now, do I believe we can do both? And of course, do multiple things as mayor. We fight for affordable homes. We fight to keep people safe. And we fight to keep the Bears in Chicago. We can do it all. But, yes, I'm going to have a conversation about the Bears. But again, the priority is to ensure that the people of Chicago get their fair share in terms of tax distribution. And that's why the local government distributor fund is top of mind for me.
And if I can ask you about police overtime, they've gone through about a third of the $200 million that's budgeted for this year, and we have not even hit the summer yet. How are you preparing, and have had conversations with the superintendent for managing that? Given that, if we go over $200 million, it's got to get pre-approval.
Yeah. Well, look, when we put forth the executive order, the whole idea was to make sure that we can monitor it at the district level. And the superintendent has done a solid job of doing that. And in fact, I believe that as a whole, and I will have to go back and double check, but overtime is down 3% overall. And we can get those numbers to verify. Look, the goal is to make sure that if overtime is needed, is that we're doing it purposefully. And of course, it's done to ensure that we're maximizing safety. But the ultimate goal, of course, is to make sure that our budget remains intact. And to your question about what we're doing, we're constantly monitoring at the district level because that's where the authority has been granted, is that those district commanders are being judicious as they deliver high quality services for the people of Chicago, but they do it in a way that doesn't blow through our budget.
How you doing, Mayor Johnson?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you. The Cubs are on a hot streak right now. I'm feeling pretty good about where we're headed as a sports organization.
To police costs, I wonder if your organization has any information about how much money the city spent on police and security connected to last Friday's May Day event, and if there's going to be an attempt by the city to collect any costs back from CTU.
I'm trying to understand the last part of the question. First part of the question I can answer. I don't have those numbers. We can get those to you. this was not a CTU event. May Day was International Workers' Day, in which Chicago Public School students participated in it, right? And, you know, as a social studies teacher, keep in mind, young people participating in the liberation for working people, there's a strong historical precedent for that, right? You know what I'm saying? Our young people that were out there by choice. And whatever cost it is, it's a worthwhile investment. Right. I mean, we're talking about young people and workers taking action at a time in which you've seen the largest upward transfer of wealth into the hands of the ultra rich. You all do a good job at reporting this, and I mean this. What's at stake in this moment is far more severe than whatever May Day cost us. There's 150,000 Illinoisans right now that we don't know if they're going to have food. Those parents send their children to school. And so we have workers that are being threatened. We have tip workers in this city right now where people believe that they're responsible for the economic downturn. And then you have children going into schools that are not fully resourced. And then you have workers showing up every day trying to make, you know, lemonade out of lemons with no sugar. And I just think it's important that we continue to narrate what's happening in this moment. We're seeing the rise of fascism all over the globe. Right-wing extremism and the anti-worker, anti-immigrant, anti-black. The Supreme Court just gutted the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act. I hope you understand at least the mannerism in which I'm speaking. Is that what type of society do we want for working people? Do we want a society in which we're begging and pleading? Or do we want a society that is plentiful and abundant? That's where I believe the attention should remain, but we're happy to get that information to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I want to go back to something that you said when you were appearing with my friend Craig Wall on the Channel 7 Town Hall last week. You were answering a question about support for mental health services in the city, specifically the Smart Tax, which you've mentioned a couple of times here. When the 58th mayor comes in another 17 years, they won't be able to undo the work that we've done. Set a formal declaration of intent or a hint about where you're leaning, sir, about next year.
Well, first of all, it was really great to be able to take those questions with the live audience. And I hope that you all at least got a chance to experience what I experienced, right? That often, and I'll just be very honest, the questions that you all ask, that's not what I'm asked of when I'm in the broader public. And I think the motivation behind those type of open forums is to get a chance to speak directly to the people of Chicago around the questions that are pressing to them versus the questions that are pressing for the press, quite frankly. Right? You know, as far as what my political future holds, I think it's really about the future of politics as a whole, and it's not just about Mayor Brandon Johnson. That, again, voting rights, workers' rights, immigrant rights, they're coming. The interests of the ultra-wealthy on this planet, they are literally coming to consume anything and everything. And my focus is going to remain on ensuring that we're driving violence down, that we're building more affordable homes, and time for political declarations will come at the appropriate time. But in the meantime, yes, I'm very much determined and committed to build the safest, most affordable city in America, and that whatever happens after my time as mayor, that the work that we do outlives my time as mayor. That's the most important thing.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
What are your sticking points for what it would take to support legislation for a Bears Stadium in Arlington Heights, or are there no concessions that could be made?
It's very cute, Alice. It's very cute. I appreciate the frame of the question. I do, and we're building a brand new soccer stadium with the Chicago Fire. The 1901 project on the west side of Chicago. Psi Quantum on the southeast side of Chicago with a brand new hospital on the south side of Chicago. First time in 60 years. I'm building things in this city. I want to build more things in this city. And why is that important? Because it creates opportunities for Chicagoans. Why would I advocate for something that wouldn't benefit the people of Chicago? I don't know why any Chicago legislator would vote for anything that doesn't benefit the people that they represent and vote for. Right now, I mean, in terms of a sticking point, look, we asked for infrastructure for the entire museum campus. We didn't even get a hearing on it. The Bears were prepared to put 72% of their dollars into a stadium that the public would own. I mean, certainly people can see the benefit of that. I mean, how many people build an office to become a tenant, to pay rent to someone else? That's what the Bears were willing to do. And so I think the way I would frame it personally is, for any Chicago legislator, what is it that we need for the people of Chicago? Let's just start there as a baseline. And what I need for the people of Chicago, our people they have to be able to work. I mean, we're working hard now to get more black contractors opportunities where they have been shut out otherwise. I mean, Arlington Heights, anywhere else, a Chicagoan having to commute 2 hours out of their way for a job, that is not something that I don't believe anybody who represents Chicago should want. You know, so, and I think that there are some legitimate concerns around the fact that at a time in which property values are increasing and affordability is becoming that much more of a challenge, to do anything in favor of entities with means without supporting families who have needs, I would find that short-sighted.
Thank you. And do you support Alderman Beal's legislation and licensing committee today that would effectively ban sweepstakes machines in Chicago?
Yeah, I haven't looked at it, honestly. I haven't.
Many talking points that you've already said you're going to discuss. We went through the Bears already. We went through the funding due to Governor Pritzker's budget. What about CPS? They're facing the deficit second year in a row. New superintendent here. Is that going to be a conversation there?
Yes. You know, it's been an ongoing conversation because it's not just CPS that's experiencing a deficit. And listen, I want to just make sure that I'm on the record again. Hear me good, you all. Every single school district in the state of Illinois, the vast majority of them, will suffer the same type of deficits. $3.2 billion or so, where the state of Illinois still has a ways to go to fully fund our schools. What's fascinating about this discussion is that some legislators are more upset about us calling out the fact that we're underfunded than they are that we're actually underfunded. And this is why I know the Speaker of the House, he supports the millionaire's tax. It's unfortunate that they weren't able to get that done and get that accomplished, but look, there's still time to move on other progressive revenue ideas. I've always advocated to fund our schools properly. I don't know if you're aware of this, but when I was an organizer, I took arrests. I've gone on hunger strikes. I've gone on teacher strikes for funding our schools. As mayor, I released the largest TIF surplus into our schools than any other mayor in the history of Chicago. I'm going to stand 10 toes down for the people of Chicago, in particular around CPS. Of course, we're going to discuss progressive revenue to ensure that our schools are fully funded.
Now, can you kind of outline what that will look like? You're saying we need funding, help us do that. Every other school in Illinois also will feel the same heat. But what does that look like? If you go there, they have these conversations, and you have to be prepared to say, this is what I want, this is what will work, that may not work if they offer something.
Yeah, I mean, look, you will always have negotiations. You know, the way it works is that you have to identify the source of revenue first, which we've done. Now it's a matter of the political will, right? Some of this really is not just on school districts and mayors. These state reps and state senators got elected as well, right? And I know that there are a number of legislators who understand the importance of fully funding our schools, right? I mean, and I think the way it can work is that if we can all come together. I mean, think about how folks are coming together to figure out a stadium. I mean, again, we've spent more time talking about a stadium than other things in Springfield. And look, I know sometimes that's driven by the interest from mass media. But when I talk to legislators, trust me, they're talking about the same concerns that I have, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's housing. These things do require prioritization. Same thing with our public schools. So yes, there will be a great deal of discussion, and hopefully with the mayors coming together around the state to really fight for our government distributed fund. These are the same mayors that represent communities where school districts are also severely underfunded, and we're going to continue to push. Keep in mind, I mean, even some of the things that we have won in Springfield, think about how long it took to get there. This LGDF, I mean, folks have been fighting to raise that for the last 15 years since Governor Quinn. Haven't heard that name in a while, have you? So, these fights have been ongoing, but look, I'm not going anywhere. We're here for it. We're battle tested. We're going to continue to push to make sure that working people are prioritized. Thank you for that.
So when you discuss the mega project legislation with state lawmakers, you're opposed to them leaving. I understand that, but you're describing a deal that was put together, 2 years ago and didn't go anywhere. Do you have a new financial model for the lakefront or Michael Reese or anywhere else? Do you have I guess, lack of a better plan, or new plan?
Another idea? I mean, that's a good question. We have a couple of ideas that we'll present. I mean, I think that would be inappropriate just because we haven't had those conversations with our legislators. And trust me, by the time that conversation ends, I'm sure somebody somewhere will slip you a note. Not me. I don't know who you get your information from, but they're pretty good at getting it to you. But the point being, though, is that no, it's unfortunate that we never even got a conversation around it. I was talking to one legislator who talked about the $900 million that I believe that they're discussing for infrastructure for the suburbs. And, I said the starting point for the infrastructure for the lakefront was about $1.5 billion. It doesn't mean that that's where it would have landed, but I think to your colleague's point, you got to start with a number and then you work through it. And so there are lots of conversations that are also associated with this particular project that really requires us to think hard about how, again, the top tourist destination in the entire state of Illinois is fully supported. That museum campus is one that's driving our economy. But yeah, there are some ideas that are newer out there that we will be discussing.
All right, I've got 2, 3, 4-parter here on this. In kind of just being bears in the city or bust, there are other aspects of that mega project legislation that it seems the state is trying to accommodate Chicago in other ways. There's the new version of Star Bonds that could support One Central. There's this new railroad specific incentive that could support One Central, or the Ishbia project at the Amtrak site, or Michael Reese, in sort of only being focused on keeping the bears in the city. Are you able to provide input on those other things that are being discussed so it specifically impacts Chicago?
Of course.
And then, sorry, this is the second part. Didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry. On Soldier Field, Alderman Superintendent Ramirez Rosa was down in Springfield last week. He has been pushing a plan to renovate Soldier Field and to improve the broader museum campus. But what I hear from state lawmakers is that's a little confusing because his plan kind of is hinged on the idea that the Bears might leave and trying to re-envision Soldier Field after that. Do you support his efforts in going to Springfield and continuing to push for infrastructure support?
Well, as far as infrastructure, we're all on the same page there. The campus needs a makeover. Like, we know that the egress is absolutely horrific, and I don't mean to trigger Bears fans or concert goers. It is just brutal getting in and out of that space, as well as it disrupts the type of flow that could naturally carry over to the rest of the campus. I was talking to the great organizers for Lollapalooza, as well as our presidents of the museum. 400,000 people show up along that lakefront over the course of a few days. Just the natural spillover of 15 to 20,000 conservatively of concert goers that would just, move about the entire campus and create more activity over there. We're losing out of that type of, economic prowess there. So the infrastructure is something that we have constantly have fought for, and we will continue to do that. As far as what this deal could do for large-scale projects and how it could benefit Chicago, absolutely we're in, conversations there. But here's the thing about Chicago. We can pat our heads and rub our stomach at the same time. I don't think it has to be an either-or scenario. At a time in which we have the most visitors in our city over the summer ever, the fact that we are at a 60-year low in terms of violent crime, the fact that, again, that we're building large-scale projects, 6, 7 cranes in the air, 19 on the way. We're building affordable homes downtown and reconverting of old office spaces. Our airport is now the busiest airport in the world. This would be the time for Chicago to accelerate, to be able to generate and move our economy forward. We are the global capital of the world. Certainly, we move the Midwest in ways that no other city in the Midwest does. And so the fact that we have all of these assets, why would we at this time disrupt that economic flow when we have the ability to grow our economy, not just with a sports team, but with an entire activated campus that would be available 365 a year? That is the real conversation that I believe. And again, there's 3 things that are happening here. There's a proposal that right now is economically unsound, and there's broad agreement around that. And then there's the fact that the Bears have interests. What I'm simply saying is there's a way in which we can do both for the city of Chicago, or we can create an economically viable plan that is responsible for taxpayers. Right now, we don't have that situation. And again, I'm going to work with the legislature to ensure that Chicago is prioritized.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
Can you give us your reaction to the millionaire's tax dying in the House over the weekend? Have you talked with your Springfield partners about next steps? And, are there viable options for progressive revenue from Springfield at this point, or is home rule the only option?
Well, I will say that there are viable options still, right? I mean, there's still, time to move on. Again, as I said before, the digital ad tax, that's something that this legislature could move on. And there are folks who have expressed interest, just like the Speaker of the House, spoke of his interest around the millionaire's tax. I know that there are many people in the Senate caucus that are moving conversations around the digital ad tax. In terms of home rule, for me, it's if the General Assembly is having a tough time building the support to do it at the state level, what I've always said is that I'm that person that's willing to go first. And clearly there's some good example around the smart tax by Chicago going first around the smart tax. It has opened up room in a lane for others to move through. So that's why we are pushing for home rule as well. It's one of those components where we have to try to do anything and everything to create revenue streams that do not rely upon working class people.
And then on the Swedish hospital shooting, it's our understanding, and the Tribune reported that the two police officers who initially arrested Alfonso Talley are under internal investigation. Why is that? Are there concerns that the search was inadequate and allowed him to get the gun into the hospital?
I know there's an ongoing investigation there, but I can't, speak to something that's ongoing. Of course, I think what's also very glaring here is the fact that, another officer lost their life in the line of duty, and one is just fighting to recover. We're going to pray for the Bartholomew family, his wife and his children, his mother, and his loved ones, the entire police department. Of course, we're going to continue to pray for Officer Crespo that he can get back to life, and hopefully and prayerfully that some level of normalcy. But as far as in the investigation, obviously because it's ongoing, I can't speak to it.
Mayor Johnson, in light of your historic calls for defunding the police, in light of your historic hiring people who are known, who are hiring people for six-figure jobs with the city of Chicago, who are known for absolutely nothing but demanding, calling for effing the pigs. In light of your historic...
Can we get to the question, please?
I'm going to ask the question that the people of Chicago have asked me to ask.
Please get to the question. Thank you.
In light of your historic calling, incarcerating violent repeat offenders, people who have raped, murdered, robbed Chicago citizens, law-abiding Chicago citizens, racist.
Where is the question?
You want the question? Are you sure?
Please, let's get to the question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, let's see about that, okay? Because the mayor doesn't seem to like my questions very much. In light of all of the above, do I need to repeat it?
I haven't heard your question yet, William.
In light of all the above, would you take this opportunity to apologize to the family of Officer Bartholomew for the role that your rhetoric has played, your vile rhetoric, according to the people of Chicago, black and brown people, by the way, who have asked me to ask you to apologize to the family of Officer Bartholomew for the role that your vile rhetoric has played in his
Thank you for the question.
Listen, I don't agree with not only your premise, but even your characterization of what the people of Chicago are calling for. What we are calling for in this moment
Check the
is not
comments.
to...
Check the comments on your own social media.
Please, let's let him answer the question.
I want to answer the question, okay? All right. So in light of what has just taken place, I think it's important that, one, we pray for the Bartholomew family, and that, two, that we continue to pray for Officer Crespo, that he fully recovers. That's the focus, and that's where I will remain.
Okay, so you won't apologize to the family of Officer Bartholomew, just as you refused to apologize to the family of Bethany McGee when she was set on fire on the CTA by a repeat violent offender, just as you refused.
Do you have a second
to
question?
This is my second question, okay? Jeez. My God, are you kidding me? This is the city of Chicago. Just as you refused to apologize to the family of Sheridan Gorman when I asked you if you would apologize to them, do you intend to attend the funeral of Officer Bartholomew? And if you do, will you take that opportunity at long last to apologize to the family of Officer Bartholomew for the role that your vile racist language has played in the murder
Thank you for the
of Officer
question.
Bartholomew?
The question is if he's attending the funeral.
As I've said before, again, I think it's important in this moment that we not only pray for the Bartholomew family, we have to ensure that we continue to pray for all of our officers, who dedicate their lives, women and men, to serve on the front lines of our city. We're praying for the full recovery of Officer Crespo, and we're grateful for the services that our first responders provide to the people of Chicago.
So you will not apologize?
Let's move on to the next question, please. Next.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
During a court hearing into the consent decree a few weeks ago, the Illinois Attorney General's office called for a full-scale review of how CPD is using force against members of the public. Do you support that review, and would you direct Superintendent Snelling to cooperate with that review?
Well, I think when it comes to the consent decree, there's no combination that this city has ever experienced between myself and the Superintendent Snelling that has been laser focused on making sure that we are in full compliance and we are moving with expediency to ensure that the consent decree is fully implemented. As far as the review of practices, those practices are always under review. So look, we appreciate the Attorney General weighing in, but in terms of how community policing is administered, and especially to ensure that we are building and maintaining trust within the community, we're constantly in review mode, in training mode, to ensure that these interactions are positive. There is some reporting around the consent decree, and we can follow up with you, Heather, on this, is that the level of reporting as it relates to this consent decree has shifted. And so some of the reflection of the consent decree around this particular aspect is really centered around how the use of force definition is how use of force is defined, in other words.
Shifting gears a little bit to the budget, we learned in a budget hearing last week that the city has not gotten any responses for proposals to expand public advertising and the debt sale as ordered by the city council crafted budget. Are you concerned that as we enter the 5th month of the year that revenue won't materialize and we are quickly approaching a situation where there would be mid-year layoffs, as you suggested a few months ago?
I've always been concerned about the projections that they made. Look, the simplest way for us to be able to settle the budget was to administer a small tax on the largest corporations in the city of Chicago. We wouldn't be in this situation, had we gone that route. And I've expressed from the very beginning that the projections that were made were problematic. We've worked hard to implement this budget. We'll continue to work with City Council to do just that. As far as what it's going to take to ensure that the people of Chicago do not have to experience harm, I'm hopeful that City Council will engage with my office again around ways in which we can progressively generate revenue without it being casted, upon speculation versus what could be made certain. And I'm going to continue to be open to those conversations. All right, thank you all very much. Appreciate you. Stay.
You just expect them to fix.
Give me the sign of the open night, a riddle of shadows where whispers lie, the thorny thigh, the maddening cry. The eagle strikes with his jagged claw. The beasts emerge as the gods withdraw. A storm of silence, a broken law. I am born to death, reborn on the hunt. I under neon skies where the static hums. Shadows whisper truths as the bassline drums. Now will this fire unchained, untamed. No path is retained, no soul is blamed. Thou hast no right but to do thy will. Feel the surge, let the silence fill. Your will on flames is alive, is still. Delivered from the lust of the thrill. Echo shattered glass where the circuits glow. The clock ticks slow, but it doesn't show. No purpose, no tether, just a beating sync. Every way perfect, on the edge, on the brink. No chains, no bar, just a void to fill. Every pulse, every spark is a perfect way. Thou hast no right but to do thy will. Feel the surge, let the silence fill. Your will on its way, it's alive, it's still. Deliver from the lust of the thrill. In the endless dark where the echoes play, no other shall say nay, no other shall stay. Through the light, through the smoke, let it all decay. made forever in the fray. I walk alone where the silence hums. No shadows chase, no voices come. The air is still, it wraps me tight. No fear, no sin, no way to bear. The sweetness whispers everywhere. Sweetness of solitude fills my veins. Soft rivers wash my chains. No need for gold, no need for fame. This quiet place, it knows my The gift of health, it lights my way. Contentment blooms where I choose to stay. Trust is the bridge where hearts align. No fear, no sin, no way to bear. And the sweetness whispers everywhere. Sweetness of solitude fills my veins. Rivers wash my chains. No need for gold, Lord. No need for fame. This quiet place, it knows my No fire burn like passion wild. No losing through like hatred piled. This body aches, a cage of stone. Rest whispers soft, the only throne. Hunger is the beast, the sharpest sting. Body cries, its constant cling. But hold and hold to truly see. It sets us free. Pain walks close, a shadowed friend. Each step we take, it will attend. But joy lies quiet, just out of view. A higher peak, a sky so blue. Feel the weight, feel it break. Every ache, every quake. Hunger's the beast, the sharpest sting. Body cries, its constant cling. But hold and hold to truly see. Waits, it sets us free. No flame is fierce, no chain is tight. This body's war, this endless fight. But higher still, beyond the fray, rest calls my name, and I let us live, let us breathe, free as air. No hate, no chains, no despair. Among the shadows, we shine so